everybody sleep in the house. You know, it's nighttime. The kids is asleep. It's like almost was actually 1 something in the morning. But I decided that I wanted to do this video. So I decided today I wanted to talk about my child being born and my experience through my pregnancy and all that. I think I want to change my scenery. So in the beginning of the pregnancy stage, I was happy. I was just like eating a lot. I was still working. It was like crazy, and I wouldn't get sick until the nighttime. The nighttime I got really sick. I threw up, and my child father, he used to smoke weed, and I used to smoke weed as well before I was pregnant. But he used to smoke weed or whatever, and every time I used to smell it, I used to just throw up. Like, me and the weed would just never get along. That, back of my cigarette, anything used to just bother my stomach. So in the middle of my pregnancy, that's when things got a little rough. As you know, people go through stuff where, like, you know, the parents just doesn't work out. One parent want to just do whatever they want to do, live their life or whatnot, and meanwhile, a person that's pregnant have to, you know, of course they're pregnant, so they can't do anything. And, you know, being that my son's father, you know, that was my first or whatever, I lost my virginity to him, I was just so attached, like emotionally, physically, and all that. So I remember days I used to pray just to, like, you know, make us better, whatnot. And then after a while, it just didn't work. So he ended up leaving. And then I ended up on my own. He would come check on me like a little here and there, but it wasn't like, you know, how I would want it to be. And it always felt like I was on like a short limit of time to see him or all that other stuff. So after a while, all that stopped. I didn't see him or anything. So in the middle of my pregnancy to the ending of my pregnancy, I was so depressed. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go outside. I had panic attacks. Like, for example, one of my old best friends, excuse me, she was taking me to a doctor's appointment, and I think we had went to the doctor's appointment. Something happened. I don't remember if we went to the doctor's appointment or we was going there, or if we were just leaving to go get something to eat. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But I remember just having a panic attack, and I was like, no, take me back home. Like, I couldn't breathe. Everything was just spinning. I just couldn't do it. I just needed to go back, you know, to inside the house. So she ended up taking me back home. I ended up throwing up on the side of the road, and she was like, are you sure you don't want me to take you to the hospital? Because the hospital's like right there, because I used to live close to the hospital. And I was like, no, just take me home. You know, I just knew that I needed to be home. I didn't want to be in a hospital. Like that, I just wanted to go home. But, excuse me guys, I will be drinking this beer because that's the only thing that my baby dad has in the refrigerator. So, don't judge me. It's nasty, but it's liquor. It's alcohol, I've never made. But, yeah, so after that, you know, stuff like that, I just had panic attacks. I just felt like I didn't want to be here. Like, I felt alone. I felt like I had nobody, because at the time, you know, his dad wasn't there. I felt like I had nobody. I didn't have no support. Only person that was helping me out was my grandmother on my mom's side. And my dad, he lives in New York, so he wasn't really helping out like that. And everybody was just having their own, you know, had their own lives and doing their own thing, that it was like I felt like I had nobody, you know. And you know, I just felt like, again, I didn't want to be there. I remember taking walks, because I used to live close to the beach. I remember taking walks to the beach late at night, and I had to walk over the bridge in order to get to the other side where the beach is at. And I remember just standing at the bridge, like I just wanted to just give up. Like, I was so depressed. I wasn't thinking about the life that I had inside me. I wasn't thinking about nobody. I was just thinking about how I felt at the moment, and how I was put last, and how I was cheated on, and all this other stuff that a person can go through. I felt. And but something in me, I just couldn't do it. Like, I just really couldn't do it. And then my son was the type of person, like, he never moved as much in the daytime. He was like a night person. Like, he always moved during the night, kept me up and stuff like that. So those times I would walk, I would always feel him moving. And I felt like that was one thing that also kept me from jumping off that bridge, because like, I felt his movement, and it was him letting me know that, hey mom, like, I'm here too. Like, everything emotionally that you feel, I feel it too. And that's one thing that I regret in my pregnancy, is not only was weights on my shoulders, but it could have been weight on his shoulder as well, because I was thinking about so many things, so much stuff, and I was dealing with a lot. So I felt bad. So fast forward, it was time for me to, okay, so we're going to not fast forward, but I was going to doctor's appointments, and they would tell me, oh, everything is good, you have a he's good heartbeat and all that stuff, which I'm gonna insert the clip right now.
Normal baby heart rate is 110 to 160. This little one's coming in the 130s, 140 range, which is perfect.
Okay, so now that you guys seen that clip, you seen that how they said everything was good, normal heartbeat, he's active, all the other stuff. They were saying he was good, and I thought everything was great. Meanwhile, I was going to the doctor's appointment by myself. It was just me and my grandmother at the time. And then, from there, it would be like my old best friend, and that was pretty much it. So fast forward, it was getting ready time for me to have my son. My son's supposed to be born on July 20th, which is my brother's birthday, and which is his dad's birthday. But my son ended up coming July 26th. So the reason why he came July 26th was because they kept saying that my cervix didn't open. I kept going in and out of hospital for Braxton Hickson or something like that, like false contractions. And they would just give me something and then send me back home. And they said that his head was down, but my cervix wasn't opening. Like, it wasn't happening anytime soon. Like, they said my cervix was still small. So they would send me home. So one of my doctor's visits that I went to, I talked to her about getting induced, because I'm like, listen, like, I'm having a hard time sleeping at night. I'm having what are some things called? I'm just having like anxiety. What is it? Like, I just was getting really, really hot at night. Like, I couldn't breathe. Like, the fan was on, the AC on 69, and the fan on, and I was just still hot. Like, I was just miserable. And I was telling her, like, I just wanted to know more information about being induced. And she was like, well, what you have to do is have to schedule an appointment. They will tell you when to come in so you can be induced, and they'll start the process. But she was like, she must warn me or whatever, just the side effects and stuff like that is very harsh. Because if you get induced and your cervix doesn't open or something doesn't go right, we would have to do an emergency C-section. And I was like, you know what, I really want to push the baby out, but I was like, you know what, I just wasn't feeling my best at all. Like, I felt like the longer I had him in me, I felt like my life was just miserable. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go out. I wasn't doing anything. And I feel like part of it was because I was depressed, and I really just wanted my son to be out. I really wanted to meet him. I really felt like he was going to end my depression. I felt like he was everything that I needed. I needed a son to show me what love feels like and all this other things. So I really just wanted to meet my son at the time. So I ended up telling her I want to do it. She was like, well, just give him to your next appointment and we'll see if your cervix haven't opened or anything like that. Then we'll schedule for you to get induced. So I was like, okay. So she told me to have sex, you know, walk on the beach and all this other stuff. Those things I was doing. And by the way, I was doing it with my child's father. But it wasn't working at all. It wasn't comfortable. It just wasn't working. And then, so when I went back to the next doctor's appointment, they checked again. And they said, well, the baby head is down, but your cervix is just not opening. So they was like, we're going to do, what did they say? We're going to schedule your appointment to get induced so that we can see if we can soften your cervix and get it, you know, to soften up and open, you know, so you can be able to have your baby. So I was like, okay, cool. They gave me the date and everything to come in. And it actually was before, I think it was before the 26th. It was the 25th they had me come in, like early morning. No, it was early. I think it was early morning or afternoon, one of those. I think it was afternoon that I came in. And, yeah, I think it was afternoon. I'm not sure. I don't remember. So, yeah, so before, that day I was supposed to come in, I remember sitting on the bed, and then I felt like wetness, and then I'm looking down the bed. I just see like a little small, like a wet stain, like two little small wet stains. And I remember taking a picture of it, sending it to his dad, and then I called him and I said, well, I don't know what this is. And he was like, well, I think, you know, your water just broke. And I'm like, no, because it would have been a lot. It wouldn't just been that little bit. So I had ended up getting rushed to the hospital. And when I got there, they said that my water broke a little bit. Like I had a little bit of leakage, but it wasn't enough, basically. So they said, we don't want to hold you. Just come back on the date that you're supposed to have, you know, to get induced. So I ended up leaving again. So this comes the date that I was trying to get induced. I went in, like I said, I don't know if it was early that morning or the afternoon, but it was on the 25th. And they told me to make sure I eat before I get there. And so that's what I did. So my grandmother took me to the Haitian restaurant. Yes, she took me to the Haitian restaurant. So I went and got Haitian food because that's all I really wanted when I was pregnant. Haitian food and seafood. That's the only two things that I wanted when I was pregnant. So I got some Haitian food and I ate that. And I was so nervous that I didn't really like eat all of it, but I ate most of it. And when I got there, they basically, you know, had me hooked up to everything, like my stomach. They had something on my stomach to, I guess, monitor the heartbeat and, you know, the baby more. And I had the IV and I had all this other stuff, and they just gave me ice, and they didn't really want to give me, they couldn't give me food. So not everybody was there, but most of the people was there. Like my grandmother was there, and she couldn't really stay because she had to go to work. So when she would leave, when she left, his dad had came and stayed with me in the room. And I remember them, I think they gave me something, or they inserted something inside of me to soften my cervix. And a few minutes later, my contractions was, they said my contractions was back to back to back because they was monitoring it. Meanwhile, at the time, like, I was not feeling my contractions at all. Like, I was mostly crying because I knew that it was close to time for me to have my son, and like, my mom is not here to watch it. And the reason why my mom is not here to watch it because my mom passed away when I was younger from breast cancer. So it felt like I had the most important person that I wanted to be there couldn't be there. So I was just crying. I was just all over the place. But I didn't feel my contractions. I don't know, maybe because my mind was so much on who my mom, really want my mom to be there, but I didn't really feel my contractions like that. Or maybe I just take pain well. But and then they said, well, my contractions is coming back to back too fast, and it's like too close together. And they said, but my cervix is not open, and they said it only opened like 2 centimeters. So they said they had to take whatever they put inside of me out, and then they had to give me some type of medication to make me go to sleep, to rest. Because I guess I don't know, they just gave me some type of medication to like rest and like go to sleep. So it made me, like, I felt like I was on a drug. Like, I was talking to his dad, and the next thing you know, like, I was just out of it. So then it comes, I feel like, I think it was the next day. Then it comes the next day, and which is the 26th. And I remember the doctor had came in, and he had checked my cervix. He put his hand, check the cervix. He was like, you still haven't opened up. And he was like, well, we're gonna have to do, so he was basically like that, we're gonna have to do an emergency C-section because it's been too long that he's been in there. Oh, and I forgot to mention that when he came in, he had broke my water. After he checked my cervix, he broke my water. And then contractions come back to back, and they said, we're gonna wait a little bit, we're gonna see what happens. But then he ended up coming back in the room, so that goes to now. He ended up coming back in the room, and he was like, we been broke your water, and we don't want to leave the baby in there like without that much water, fluid. So they was like, we have to do an emergency C-section. When they said that they had to do an emergency C-section, hunty, baby, when I tell you I freaked out, like, I was so scared. Like, I didn't want to go under the table. I didn't want to get cut and be under the table. I wanted to push my baby out. I wanted to have all this fluid and all this stuff on my baby and lay him on my chest. Like, I did this. Like, and you trying to take that from me to cut him out? What? So I had to think about the baby then, and they was telling me all the risks and stuff, and I was like, you know what, just get my baby out. Just get my baby out. Because I already felt like they didn't really know what they was doing, because I felt like my baby was in there too long. Like, they was giving me all these medications and stuff, and nothing wasn't working. And they wasn't telling me, like, they wasn't just keeping it, real with me. Like, I just felt like something was wrong. So I was just like, just get my baby out. So they had, they came back with all the supplies. They made everybody leave the room. And they ended up, what did they do? No, actually, they told, okay, so they made the dad, they brought the stuff in for the dad to, put on his scrubs and everything. And, they took me to the room where he was gonna cut me. So they told me to, it was like this silver cold table. Like, it really looked like I was in Dr. Miami table or some shit. But it was like a silver table, and they told me to sit up on it. So I sat up on it, and then that's when they was like, oh, we're gonna do the procedure of the epidural, so you have to be very still. It was a lady. So meanwhile, my what's her name, midwife, I think her name midwife, she had came in, And really, it was a black lady. She was very, very nice, and I trusted her with everything. Like, that's who I thought was gonna deliver my baby. But then when I seen the actual doctor, like the guy doctor, I never met him. Like, I don't even know him. So that's what made me kind of like, who is this? Like, I feel like my baby was in danger. So the midwife came. She was like, I'm not supposed to be in here, but I know that you're nervous. I'm gonna stand here with you till you get the epidural, you know, until they come in, the real doctors come in. So I was like, okay, thank you so much. So she prayed with me before I got the epidural. While the lady was getting the epidural ready, she prayed with me. And then when the lady was like, are you ready? You know, she put the iodine on my back and stuff, which I didn't see her do it, but I'm pretty sure that's what she do it, you know, because that's usually when you get you know. So that's how they clean the area for like a sterile procedure like that. So she was like telling me to bend over. Mind you, my stomach was huge, which I'm gonna insert the photos of how my stomach was in this freaking video, because my stomach was huge. And when she was telling me to like bend over, like, you know, crunch over like that so she can, you know, put it in my back, and she kept saying, you're not bent over far enough, you're not bent. I'm like, ma'am, this is how far I can go. Like, I can't bend down no more. It was very, very hard. Like, it was pressure. It was too much. My son's head was like down there, but he couldn't get out. So when she was getting ready to stick me, the lady held my hand, the midwife. So she held my hand. I think her name was Miss Jackie actually. But she held my hand, and she was like, breathe in. I'm like, okay. So I'm breathing in, girl. I'm breathing in. The next thing you know, they said they was gonna numb the area first. Yeah, they numbed it a little bit, but not in the inside, baby. So when she stuck the first time, and yes, I did say the first time. When she stuck the first time, that shit hurted like a mother. Oh my God. So when she stuck me, it felt like she hit my spine. Like, she was just going in, and I felt like a piece of my spine like chipped. Like, I felt like the needle was so thick that I felt like it chipped my spine. You ever talk about getting the epidural after you already have it, and then your spine, your back start feeling like weird? That's how I'm feeling right now. So she took my spine, and then I jumped. When she did that, like, I couldn't control it. I just jumped. So the midwife, he was like, don't move, baby, don't move. I said, this lady, I was crying. I was like, this lady just hit my back. Like, she hit my spine. What is she doing? She don't know what she's doing. So the lady was like, ma'am, you can't move. I'm gonna have to do this again. You're gonna have to bend down, because I didn't get it right. You moved. Like, she was trying to say I moved before she hit my spine. So she took it out or whatever, and she was putting pressure on the spot that she stuck me in. And the midwife was like, she knew that I didn't move, because mind you, she's in front of me. She was holding me, and she was like, okay, look, you gonna have one more time to stick her, and then after that, if you can't get it, we gonna need somebody else in here to do this, because we can't be sticking her too many times. You're not supposed to stick. When you do epidural, you're not supposed to get stuck twice. You're not supposed to get stuck more than once, especially when they hit your spine. Like, that's just not gonna happen. So the lady was like, I'm gonna do it. She just have to be still. And she was like, all right, so you just got one more time. So I thank God for the midwife, Lord, because that I don't even say white lady, but the lady that was there, she was just so careless, like, and then I wouldn't have much to say because they just trying to stick me and get on out the way. But she made sure I was taken care of, and the lady stuck again, and she finally got it. And the second time, like, the midwife had to, like, actually put her hands on top of my back. Like, I was bending out, she had to put her hands on top of my back to really push me down just a little bit. So it was so much pressure. So she pushed me down a little bit, so make sure that the lady wasn't complaining that second time, and make sure she got it right. So it was a success after that second time. And then it was like, so they laid me on the bed, on the table, whatever. And it was like, you're gonna feel numbness. Like, she was like, you're not gonna feel nothing, you know, doctor should be in. So they was setting everything up. The doctor came in, and I told doctor, I was like, listen, make sure my baby come out healthy. You know, I was just talking to the guy. I ain't even met him. I was like, just make sure my baby good, make sure he healthy. And I said, before you do anything, can you make sure that I can't feel my legs, like nothing? He was like, yeah. So he had got like a needle, and he just started like sticking me like with the needle like on my thigh. He was like, do you feel that? Do you feel that? And I'm like, no. I didn't even know he was sticking me at the time. I was like, no. He was like, okay, so you're numb, you're good. And he showed me the needle, and I was like, oh, okay. So he was like, just stay calm. He was like, in a little bit, we're going to bring the dad in, you know, he's going to be next to you. And it was like this blue sheet thing that they put from over my waist, so I couldn't, you know, see it at the time. So finally his dad came in, and when his dad came in, I was just speaking to him. I was talking to him. I was like, I'm so nervous and scared. He was like, no, you're doing good. I didn't even do that yet. He was like, oh, you're doing good, da, 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 da. Whatever. So skipping to, because I don't remember that much during that process, but when they started, that's what I remember. So when they started, I remember tugging. Like, I felt like somebody was pulling on me, and the doctor did say, you're gonna feel like we're pulling down on you, but that's us trying to get the baby out. So he was tugging on me and stuff, and I was like, Zay, they really pulling on me, they really pulling on me. He was like, yeah. So and I think I just said his dad name in here, but oh well. So next thing you know, the baby came out, and all I remember them saying, he's here, whatever. And my baby had like this light cry. Like, I'm gonna try to see if I could put it in this video, but he had a very, very faint cry. And I remember asking his dad, I was like, is he okay? Like, what's going on? Is he okay? And his dad was like, oh, he's good, he's here, da da da. And I just, as a mother, you know, like, you just know. I just knew something wasn't right. And I remember them just like using this little blue thing to take, you know, the stuff out of the baby or whatnot. And when my son's dad handed me over my son, which he said he did that, but at the time, all I remember is like this like bright light. Like, the person, whoever was handing me my son, I just remember they was being very bright. Like, they looked like it was just a bright like light oral around them or whatever. And it didn't look like nobody. I couldn't see who it was, and all I remember is them. I remember seeing my baby just, my baby could have been floating in the air for what I seen, but I was able to kiss on him and everything, and talk to him, tell him I love him and all that, but I couldn't really do much, and I didn't have that much time with him. So they ended up taking him, and the dad ended up leaving to make, you know, okay, so when they said he was gonna take him to check on him and stuff like that, I told his dad, I said, make sure you follow them. I don't want them going nowhere, you know, with my baby by themselves. Like, wherever he go, you follow. So he was like, oh no, okay, I am, da da da. So he ended up leaving, and I remember just blacking out. I don't know what happened after that. I remember waking back up, and I was in this recovery room, they call it, and the people was coming in, and it was like, oh my gosh, Tati, he looked just like he looked just like you. He's so light skinned. He this, he that, like everything. They were just like, you know. And I remember just blinking in, blinking out. And then when I did finally wake up, I was actually in my room. And it was the next day. So I woke up the next day, and they told me to. They came in and did something with my stitches area. I think they was moving the tape around the stitching area to put new tape there, or just removing it, period, I guess, so that it caught the drainage. I'm not sure. But and also that's the most important day is the next day, because they want you to walk. So I had to get up and walk and everything, and that was the hardest part. And let me tell you, the nurses that was there, and they was so rude. I was telling them that it was hurting when they was taking the tape off of my wound area, and it was like, how is it hurting if you just had a whole baby? Like, they was just so rude, and they treated me like nothing, to be honest. And so I went to use the restroom and everything, which was hard, and they said they wasn't gonna let me leave until I poop and pee and all the other stuff. So yeah, after I started walking, I told them I wanted to see my baby. So me and the dad went, which we was like really close to the room that they keep, which is the NICU room where they kept my child, an NICU room. So we went to walk right there, which is right down the hall. And when we walked there, I seen him. He was under this blue light and everything, and he had like a feeding tube in his nose and oxygen on his nose, and he had stuff over his eyes, like a white thing over his eyes, so I couldn't see his eyes or anything like that. And he was naked, but just in a diaper. So I remember the doctor coming to talk to me, and he was like, you know, we've been having problems with your son. He haven't been, every time we tried to feed him milk, they would say that he's not swallowing it. It's like he was choking on the milk, basically. So they said they had to do a feeding tube through his nose. And they said also his cry is very, very light. So they feel like, they said they did tests. They kept him in there for a while. So they said they've been doing tests, and they said the diagnosis that they think they might have for him is that his vocals are paralyzed. That's what they told me. They were like, your son's vocals are paralyzed. So let me tell you, when I heard that the doctor said my son's vocal was paralyzed, that's the worst thing as a mother. Like, first having your child, that's the worst thing you could want to hear. And I get goosebumps, and my eyes are like teary just thinking of this, because like I was told my whole pregnancy that my son was good, like everything was great, you know, even though nothing was right with me, but my son was great. And when I tell you, I just started crying. I was crying. And his dad just came and held me, and then he was like, it's okay, you know. The doctor didn't really have much to say. It was like, we're still doing tests, you know. We'll let you know more information. We might have to, you know, do a lot of tests on him that we might have you to sign off on. And I remember snapping back into it, and I was like, no, I'm not falling for me hearing that my son that his vocals are paralyzed. When he was born, I heard him cry. If his vocals, this is how I felt about it. If his vocals was paralyzed, he wouldn't be crying. I don't care how light it was, my son would not have cried. I would have never heard it. So I'm like, no, I need a second opinion. I was like, I'm not falling for it. I need a second opinion. My son needs to go somewhere where it's actually a children's hospital or something. And that's when they brought up to me about this hospital. Is called Nicholas Children's Hospital. It's like one of the best hospitals for children. And So I was like, yeah, that's where I want my son to go so they can do, serious tests out. I want them doing serious tests here on him. Because the next day, my son not even well, he is a day old, but like, he not even 2 days old, and you're telling me that his vocals is paralyzed. Like, no. So, we end up getting moved to Nicholas Children's Hospital. We talked, and I'm gonna put some emotional pictures in here because how my son looked, he didn't look good at all. But me as a mother, like, I had to keep it together most of the time. I was the one signing papers. I was the one making life decisions for my son, which, as I know, that's how mother's supposed to be, but not like you just having a child. Usually that stuff, it rolls in. Me, I had to be on it, like, right then and there. It wasn't no waiting. It was none of that. So, I ended up going to Nicholas Children's Hospital, and he was there for a while. They ended up doing a test on him. They was like, ma'am, if he's not swallowing, because they did try to swallow test, and he ended up stopped breathing, they had to bring him back a couple times, actually. And it was like, well, this is very dangerous for him. Like, this is dangerous on his lungs. If any milk or anything get in his lungs, that's gonna damage the, anything wet should not be in the lung area. So they was like, that's very, very bad. And my son was losing so much weight. He was looking really, really bad. And they was like, and also his breathing was very off. They was giving him oxygen, and sometimes he just didn't want to do it anymore, and then they had to bring him back. So I had to sign a very, very important document. It felt like a document because a lot of papers, but I had to sign off on letting them know, like, hey, I trust you with my son to do this surgery, and I understand that you're doing this, and that surgery. So my son ended up, before he was even a month old, he turned a month old that night, which was the next day because it was 12 when he ended up coming back or whatever. But before he was a month old, he ended up getting a muscle biopsy, which on his right leg, they ended up cutting him and taking out a piece of his tissue to do tests on it to see exactly what's going on. They also did a tracheostomy. They cut a hole here and put a trach in here so that he's able to breathe. And because with him not being able to swallow, is something going on in this area, and they don't want anything bad to happen, being that something going on in this area, when they can go around that and put something straight here where the air can just not physically, but the air is more easier to come out and go in. So they put a trach here. And also they did a G-tube, and they put a hole in his stomach there, and they put a G-tube there. And the reason why they put the G-tube there, I think it's called gastro, something like that, but really a G-tube. The reason why they put that there was because they didn't want to forever to have the tube in his nose, because something can happen, and it just felt like it was uncomfortable, and it was much better to just do a G-tube where it's like right there in the stomach, instead of having all this stuff going through this nose and area here, knowing that we're having problems up here, even though the tube goes down here. They just didn't want nothing to get worse than what it was, and they felt like that was the right decision. I felt like that was the right decision, and to be honest, that was the best decision I had ever made in my life, because if I would have never did that, my son would not be here today. So after he got those surgery, which I'm gonna put pictures again, he was very, very like swollen. He was so swollen. Like, I'm gonna show a picture before how skinny he was. Then I'm gonna put the picture in of how swollen he looked. Like, it was crazy. And that was a very emotional, just seeing my son come back, and that was very, very emotional. But then after that, I noticed he started gaining weight. He started looking better. For the most part, his health was much better. And that's what I was looking forward to. That's what the doctors was looking forward to. We was more worried about his health, about him eating, about all that stuff. So that worked out perfectly. So after the test came back from his biopsy, mind you, we are in the NICU, and in this hospital they have like a little room area inside of the patient room, which was my son's room, because my son had a private room, and I can sleep there. It was a shower, it was everything that I needed, so I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't working, I wasn't doing nothing. I stayed there in the room with my son, and I watched everything the nurse did, whether it was changing the tray, changing the G-tube, cleaning him off, because he had to take like bird baths, and he had to wash in this certain type of soap, being that he had just got the major surgery, so he couldn't bathe in I think it was an antibacterial soap or something he had to wash in. And I just made sure I was there learning everything, every single thing. I didn't care what it was. So yeah, after that they ended up coming back, letting me know that what they found from the muscle, from the tissue, they said that he was diagnosed with King-Denborough syndrome. And I'm gonna say it again for the people that don't know what I just said. It's called King-Denborough syndrome. It's basically a muscular weakness, and it's internal. So you can look that up. I'm not gonna go into further detail unless you guys want me to in a whole nother video, but I don't want this video to be that long, which it is gonna be long anyways. But yes, he do have King-Denborough syndrome, and they said that syndrome is very rare. Not everybody has it, and they say it mostly happens in male babies, not female. Like, it's boys, not girls. So that's basically what I found out, and that hurted to hear too, because they said it's up to the child to get better. It's up to if the muscles and internal wise want to be strong enough to do what a normal child does as far as walking and rolling, doing all that. But for him, it's just right now, he's in his bed, which is a crib. He's still in a crib. He's 1 year old, and we have to turn him every 3 hours. We turn him from side to side. It goes from left side to the right side to his back, or as long as he's turned. We change his diaper. He watches movies. He loves watching his TV, which is the TV that he recently just got, because before he was watching on DVD player. But we keep him entertained. I mean, he doesn't really move like any normal child, and I don't think people understand what they have in life, because like they be complaining, oh, my child's so bad, or oh, this child this and this child that, and I'm here like, I would love to have that. I would love to have a badass child. Like, I would love to clean up and do all this stuff with my child, but yet you complain, or I see people beating on their children and going to jail for it, and I'm like, are you serious? Like, it's a lot of stuff, and it actually more harder on me, because I don't have a child that runs around. I don't have a child that I can take to the park and do fun stuff with. I don't have a child that I can play with his toys with, I don't have a child like that. Like, my child is very unique. He's different, and he's my type of unique. He's my type of different, and I love him every bit. Every piece of him is me, honestly. And before, I used to think it was my fault. I used to think it was my fault because I was so stressed during my pregnancy. Everything that happened between me and his dad, I blamed myself for every single thing. I compared myself for every single thing. And like, I always felt that it was my fault that my son was like that because of how I was feeling. You know, like how I was feeling. They say that everything you feel, your child feel. They say don't be sad because your child feel that. Don't cry because your child feel that. And I felt like my son felt every single thing, and I used to feel that I was the reason for causing him to be so weak. To be so weak. I was weak. Almost my whole pregnancy, I was weak. Okay? I was a shameful mother. Soon to be mother. I was neglected, abused. I was all these things, and I felt like it was my fault. But I'm not on here to have pity or, you know, all this other stuff. I'm not on here for that. I'm on here and I'm telling my story and my son's testimony because I know it's other people out there that's going through the similar things or going through something that's close to mine, and they need to hear that even though all this stuff is going on, you have to find out how your chapter is going to end. If you feel like you want your chapter to end as in, say like me, say if I was to feel like there's nothing I could do. You know, they begged me to put my son in a home, like a foster, like I don't want to call it like a foster home, but like a home people can take care of him. And they said that, oh, I can visit him anytime I want and everything. I told them people, hell no. I said, my son is not going anywhere. I said, I carried my son for 9 months. I'm the one who gave birth to him. This is my responsibility. I'm not finna push this on the next person. No, I'm gonna go through every class I need to go through to show that I'm worthy to keep my child. And that's exactly what I did. I did CPR classes. I did classes to know how to change the tube, the trach, the G tube. So yeah, guys, my bad. My phone had cut off. But yeah, so like I was just well, I went through classes to learn a lot of stuff, how to work the vent, because being that he is on the trach, it was like he needed to be vent supported. He needed the oxygen, the air to keep him going, because being that he had stopped breathing a couple times, it threw him back. So it's like learning how to breathe on your own all over again, basically. But now he's doing great. We're doing good. We have a lot of little bumps in the road, but other than that, everything is fine. I just wanted to share this because, you know, it's people out there that go through depression. You know, they say that usually you have postpartum after your pregnancy, but for me, I did not have postpartum after my pregnancy. I had depression during my pregnancy, and I feel like that's more dangerous than having it after. It's dangerous either way it goes, but you know, everybody can tell their own different story about if they have depression during or if they have postpartum after. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and insert some videos and pictures of my son from when he was little to now, And if you guys want me to do another video with his dad, telling you know, letting him tell his story, not his story, but his side of the story about how he felt about the whole situation, or and stuff like that, and you know, then I'll go ahead and do that. But just let me know in the comment area. And this is all very new to me. I did not put my son business out on Facebook. I hid him from the world. I wasn't trying to protect, you know, I wasn't trying to make it seem like I was ashamed of my son. I was honestly trying to protect my son from, it's a mosquito here, I'm sorry. I was trying to protect my son from the danger and cruelty of people words that's out in this world. Because believe it or not, it is people out there that says harmful stuff still to this day that does. I remember before my son was born, someone wished that my son died. And you know, even to the day that he's born, I heard people talk about him, and they never said it to me, but I heard somebody else will come back to me saying what they said. And you always know, anybody who picks up a bone is feeding the bone as well. So anybody who's coming back telling you this and that, they're talking about him as well. So that's why I don't have friends, because I feel like nobody could be on my level. So I don't have friends at all. I stay to myself. But I'm not gonna go on the whole rampage. I'm gonna go ahead and post the pictures and everything. And again, just comment if you want me to have his dad in the next video, so that he can tell his side of the story, or of how he felt. But thanks so much for watching. See you guys next video. Zaire got hiccups.
Like that. That's just my heart rate. My heart can go like that. Tell her. I see that mommy, my heart, it go boo 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 boo.
Hey Zaire. Daddy entertaining you?
Baby, don't let me down. Got a lot going on right now, and I
Zaire, it's okay. He gonna get his blanket back. Oh.